Welcome to episode 5 of Whiskey Week in Review for the week of April 10th. Today we're going to look at a distillery closing down their public tours, new technology in whiskey, and just a look around the whiskey content creator world and a few of my favorite things from the past week. If you like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe below.
Missing someone with all your
First, let's take a look at a change in policy for Barton's 1792 whiskey. They used to offer tours of the distillery, but they are closing the doors to the public. Per distillery officials, after careful review of our brand's needs, plant capacity, safety, and practicality, we have made the decision to no longer offer public tours. So they are going to focus on their whiskey and making their portfolio stronger. They are going to be continuing tours through June 30th. So if you are a big fan of the 1792 bourbon, definitely go and check out that tour before they officially close down. Next is a very intriguing new technology in whiskey, and this is a technology called NOS, and that's spelled NOS.E. It is a nosing technology to predict what a whiskey is, whether it's good or poor quality. And to date, it actually has a very promising track record. It has been able to correctly predict 100% of the time the region the whiskey comes from, 96% of the time the brand, and 92% of the time the style. So that is pretty accurate and definitely a much better noser than the human nose. So step aside whiskey sommeliers and blind whiskey contests, because it seems like this technology is going to be the next standard in terms of verifying quality and making sure that people who spend a lot of money on expensive whiskeys are not being sold false or fake whiskeys. So with that, let's take a look around the whiskey content creator world and see what has been going on over the last week, starting with the Whiskey Rant podcast. That is Rob and Jeremy of Whiskey into Six and Sipper Social Club, their podcast. They had on special guest Ralfy, the OG, of course. And they discuss all sorts of things, from Billy Walker's influence on Glenfiddich, secondary market selling, and whether or not it was a good decision for Rob to buy the Bowmore Austin Martin edition. Definitely go to YouTube or onto any podcast service to check this out, listen to it. Very interesting stuff, very cool topics that they are talking about. Next on the list is the Scotch Down Under. The folks down in Australia are discussing Glenfiddich's 14-year-old finished in ex-bourbon and virgin oak casks. Now, this is a whiskey that's been around here for a long time, but just arrived in Australia. And in the United States, when you can get it for around $40 to $50, I always thought this was a pretty good whiskey, an easy sipper, nothing to really analyze or think about, but just something that is enjoyable to sip on. Take a look at their YouTube channel, see if they like it, whether they think they would recommend it or think it's worth buying. Link is down below in the description. Next, we have Roy from Aqvavitae's weekly V-Pub. Now, this is a very interesting topic, what he calls the open bottle syndrome, and the idea of not opening versus opening bottles. Personally, I try to keep a decent balance. The more bottles I have open, the longer it takes to finish them, so the bigger my collection gets. But there's a balance that must be struck. You don't want to just store unopened bottles, but you also have to decide whether or not it's how many bottles you want in your collection. Take a look at this V-Pub. It is long, but Roy does a great job of marking his YouTube channel, and so you can fast forward or rewind to the topics and the segments that you find interesting. Definitely recommend this one. A very interesting watch. And finally, for this week, I have the Malt Muser's review of the Adelphi Caol, 12-year-old, aged in sherry casks. I picked this one because Caol is an underrated Islay distillery. I mean, they any independent bottling of an Isla whiskey, more often than not, it is a Kalila. They make fantastic stuff, and Adelphi is a very well-regarded independent bottler. Take a look at the Malt Muser's review on YouTube, on the link below. Very good review, very interesting. See if he thinks it's worth the price you pay and whether it is a good whiskey. So that will do it for April 10th edition of the Whiskey Week in Review. Please, again, comment, like, and subscribe below, and I will see you next week.